You know, some things are just like certain things happen in wrestling to where this is the only time it could happen, and this is the only wrestler it could happen with. Cal Sanderson winning 4 NCAA championships, undefeated, 159-0. That's a once in a lifetime thing. Kyle Dake winning 4 NCAA titles in 4 different weight classes. That's a once in a lifetime thing. Jordan Burroughs just being on the run that he has been on, and then making 12 world teams. He beat John Smith's record, 7 world and Olympic gold medals. You know, that's a once in a lifetime thing. Like when Jordan Burroughs finally hangs it up, whenever he does, you're not going to see another wrestler like him again. He really is the greatest American wrestler of all time internationally. You know, even Spencer Lee, although he didn't get 4 NCAA titles, those 3 that he did get, the way he got them, no one else can do that. No one else could win an NCAA title with 2 very messed up knees the way he did. You know, so there's certain people that come along where it's like, it's a once in a lifetime thing. Everybody overuses the whole generational run term and stuff. You got to pick your spots when you use that term, because somebody has to be very, very good for you to say that they're on a generational run. And we could say that right now about PJ Duke. At Final X, he beat Yanni Diakomahalis, a returning world finalist, in order to make the world team. Right? Still in high school. He's still in high school and he's doing that. You know? He also made the U23 World Team and the U20 World Team, along with making the Senior World Team at Final X, which it's insane. It's insane. So last year at the U20 World Championships, he took 3rd. I covered that. This year, he wins it. And somehow he looked even better. Right? Somehow PJ looked even better. You know, I thought he was going to look just as well as he did when he wrestled against Yanni. But as phenomenal as PJ is, he got better. That's scary. That's scary how good PJ is. So I'm going to go ahead and get into these matches. So 70 kilograms is the weight that PJ went. That's the weight he won the world title at. So he goes against Umut Uslu from Turkey. First period, PJ's signature Russian tie is on display. That's one of his main signatures in his arsenal. His main moves. And then PJ rushed in and got a step out. So he kind of had him in a front head, kind of pushed him, you know, with the tight grip, gripped his armpits a little bit, pushed him out, got the step out. And then they reset, back to the center. He got that Russian tie, that patented Russian tie he always goes for. Ankle pick, leg lacing him a bunch. 11-0 Techfall. Easy money. Then the 1/8 final versus Gabriel Cepeda from Mexico. First period, PJ counted a high crotch, hit 2 guts, 6-0 is the score. They reset. Cepeda tried to be a little bit fancy, and he did. He did try to be fancy. But then PJ capitalized with the first period pin. Just put him on his back, pinned him, and that was it. That was all she wrote. PJ made them look Bush League. Obviously, you're very good if you make a world team. You wrestle at the World Championships. Obviously, you're very good. Some countries might be better than others, but nobody sucks if they're on a world team, you know? And the fact that this high school kid, well, they're all high schoolers, but the fact that PJ's making them look like this, like, if you go watch the matches, PJ made them look silly. He outclassed them by a lot. You know, like, it's one thing to grind and grind and grind your way through a very high-level tournament and win it. but it's something else when you're able to make people look silly. That means you're extremely good, right? This ain't some regular tournaments or World Championships. I'll continue here. The quarterfinals. So this was a little bit more of a match here. So a lot of tournaments are like that. I've spoken about it before. High-level tournaments, the further you go, the steeper the competition will tend to get. So he goes against Abdullah Nakayev from France. First period, the hand fighting leads to an upper body scramble. And you're going to notice this more as I review this. PJ's hand fighting is just, it's a very American style, and it's top notch. It's top tier. And it's something that a lot of wrestlers talk about, bringing the American style into the international tournaments. PJ eventually got the first takedown. So during that scramble, he straightened his opponent's leg from an inside trip. I guess he wanted the inside trip, couldn't get it. So then he straightened his opponent's leg while still having his own leg wrapped around his opponent's leg. And then he controlled that, like you pretty much have control over their hip as well if their leg is extended. So then he hopped over and got the takedown. PJ couldn't turn him at first. They reset. PJ won in exchange and did the same kind of thing again and then scored again. So 4-0. And I guess PJ couldn't really turn him again. And another thing about PJ Duke, I said this before about Max Gallagher a while back when he made the U20 World team. And they both train under KD, right? They're both part of that club. Something they do is they don't waste any energy. So PJ, it seems like in those moments, he didn't want to force a turn, He just wanted to do what he had to do. He didn't want to waste any energy. And that happened throughout the rest of the tournament. He really just made sure not to waste any energy. Same thing I saw at Final X. I was there live. He didn't waste any energy. He did everything he had to do, And that's very important, especially at the higher level tournaments or if you're going against higher level wrestlers. Don't waste any energy. So then Nakayev countered PJ. When they reset, PJ went for an attack. And then Nakayev scored his first takedown. Then they had like another scramble type of thing. PJ got back exposure. While he was kind of almost sitting on him in a way, if you guys can imagine that. And he had Nakayev, one of his legs, like up in the air, extended. So he got the back exposure, obviously. And then Nakayev quickly reversed. So now it's 6-3. But it's a 1-point reversal because it's freestyle. And PJ didn't mind. He knew he was up, so. And then PJ got into a great front headlock. Hopped over, go behind. We kind of hopped a little bit and got 2 more points. And now the score is 8-3 PJ. So PJ knew where he could score from the most, right? From the ties, from the front headlock, the Russian tie. He knows where his high percentage scoring situations are going to be, so he doesn't mind giving up a point here and there, giving up a takedown here and there. He knows where he's going to score, or most likely to score. So then second period comes around. PJ won another great scramble. He scored close to the edge, 10-3. Huge deficit. Nakayev went for a high crotch, but PJ countered, scored. Then he hit a gut. So it seemed like it was going to be 14-3. That's what we thought. The refs challenged it, and then they brought it back down to 12-3. Still a huge deficit, but, Nakayev scored a step out during the scramble, another scramble, and now the score is 12-4. PJ still has a very good lead, so it really doesn't matter all that much. Then they were wrestling some more. PJ got into a seatbelt position, whipped his arm over, scored, and won 14-4 tech. So even with the referee, changing things up, PJ was still able to tech his opponent. He didn't edge out a win. He teched him. All right? Like, this is PJ Duke here. This is how good he is. 2 techs and a first period pin. It's PJ Duke. So we go into the semifinals. He goes against Ibrahim. I am not going to try to pronounce his last name, from Iran. they're usually extremely good. So this was a little bit more of a match. You got to really see the masterclass that PJ Duke was able to put on. So in the beginning of the first period, it was like two bulls clashing. There really was some elite hand fighting by both of these guys. They were kind of doing the test of strength thing, not on purpose, obviously, but they were locking fingers quite a bit, just jockeying for position, but it looked really good, the hand fighting. So I'm glad the ref didn't really make a big deal about that. He seemed to not make too much of a big deal because he knows they were both trying to get to something. PJ failed to score on the shot clock he got put on there, so Ibrahim got the first point because of that. They started wrestling more, they're moving around toward the edge. Then PJ Duke hit a slide by, got the first takedown. So the score is 2-1 PJ. And then more hand fighting, stuff like that. That's really the last big thing that happened in the first period. Second period comes around. Ibrahim actually managed to get a step out. They had a real intense scramble during the toward the edge. So then Ibrahim got that step out. So the score is 2-2 after that, but PJ was still in the lead due to criteria, because a takedown is worth more than a step out. PJ attempted a blast double off the whistle. He didn't get it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. This time it didn't. And then PJ Duke's judo hips came into play. Everybody knows PJ has a very extensive judo background, so anytime that it looked like he was going to take him down, it looked like he was dead to rights for a takedown or for a step out, he used those judo hips. Whipping his opponent around, stuff like that. Just really, his opponent thought he was in control, and then PJ just stopped that from happening. So his judo hips really came into play. And just some more elite hand fighting. And then that wound up being enough. And then PJ won 2-2 criteria. So I see the score, right? I'm saying the score to you guys. You're hearing that. But you go back and watch the match, PJ put on a masterclass. And like I said, he's not going to do things he doesn't have to do. He's not going to waste energy. He knew in this match, he knew it's more important to win, not necessarily to put up a ton of points. He was able to do that, yes, in the previous 3 matches, but he knows not every match is going to be like that. It's more important to just win. It's a World Championships. You're trying to win, But he made sure everybody that saw the match, he was the one, he put it on him, put on a masterclass. And I wrote another bullet point. PJ's just stronger, more aggressive, and he was more tactical in this match. That's what it looked like to me. I mean, PJ looked physically bigger than the kid, but also he was just stronger. Like the way he was using his hips and such. The way he was getting the advantageous positions in the hand fight, right? The way he was controlling it, he just looked strong. It looked like he was just stronger and being more aggressive as well. I can compare it to, if there's any MMA fans listening, most wrestlers are MMA fans. You look at a guy like Rampage Jackson, right? How he was just really strong, well, seemingly just really strong, but he was also very tactical. If you really look closely at a bunch of his fights, when he was still fighting in the UFC, even when he got the title, there's a certain torque that he had with his punches, and that's where all that knockout power would come from. And he had a very strong lower back. That's how he was able to pick people up and slam them. So I could compare that with PJ Duke's wrestling. He has a very strong torque, Whenever he uses his hips, he didn't really throw anybody during this tournament, but when he's using his hips to regain position or to stop his opponent from trying to push him out to the edge, it's that judo background and his very strong hips. Just like Rampage, he had very strong hips, so that's how he got that torque to be able to knock people out. And then PJ's just also very strong, and he can be very aggressive at times. You saw it in the previous 2 matches. He can take you from the middle of the mat and get you all the way to the other side and get a step out if it's freestyle. He's able to do that. Rampage, if anyone that's ever seen him fight, very aggressive. And if he has you against the cage, he can pick you up and slam you at a moment's notice because he's just very strong. but it's also very tactical. It's not just brute force. There's a lot of technique going on. So you got to really look closely at that. It's not just brute force and aggressiveness. There's a lot of technique going on. So PJ has like that perfect mix of being aggressive and strong, but also being very tactical and having great timing. A lot like Rampage Jackson when he used to fight. So it's a little bit of comparison there. Something I noticed, made me think about it. So now we go into the finals. He's going against Alexander Giadarli from Moldova. Period 1. Alexander could not beat the shot clock. PJ's hand fighting. He's able to stop you from scoring and also do enough to where he's being, active. Also be active enough to where you can clearly tell he's trying to jockey for position. He's trying to get something, He's not just stalling or anything like that. So he did that. Alexander couldn't beat that shot clock. And it was really intelligent hand fighting from PJ. And then no one wound up scoring in the first period. So I guess PJ learned from the previous match in the semis to do enough, but do a little bit more with his hand fighting and be even more intelligent with his hand fighting and still be aggressive enough and make it so that he's more active than his opponent. And then also be really defensive to make sure his opponent can't get a position. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's hard to do. It's not easy to do. But this is the high level that PJ Duke is at. So he was able to have that higher level of hand fighting to be able to put his opponent on the shot clock like that. So PJ scored, and then he kept his opponent from scoring for the rest of the period. So good on PJ. Like I said, he's not wasting energy. Period 2. PJ briefly attempted to throw. Briefly, after securing a chest strap, his opponent took a bad shot. But his opponent knew what was up, like he felt it coming. So he just held on to a certain position, and then the ref called a stalemate. They go back to the center. PJ's shot gets countered. They had a little brief exchange. Then Alexander drove PJ to the edge for a step out. So the score is now 1-1, but Alexander's in the lead on criteria. A very quick fake to go behind on PJ. 3-1. Now, with this very quick fake, PJ really didn't do that in the other matches. Why? Because he kind of felt, when he had to turn it up and when it was time to turn it down. So now we're in the final match. This is for all the marbles. It's for the gold medal. Now PJ's really, really turning up. Now he's pulling things out of his hat that you didn't see in the other matches. Why? Because he didn't waste any energy. He didn't do things he didn't have to do. The first 2 matches, he knew he could beat those guys quickly. So that's what he did, because he needed to save his energy. And he was able to learn from match to match. It's PJ Duke. He got better from match to match to match to match to match. He didn't do the same things in all these matches. That's extremely hard to do, but that's something to really pay close attention to for anyone that really wants to get to this high of a level. PJ attempts to go behind again. They scrambled. PJ scored, and then it led it to another stalemate. 5-1 PJ. Alexander faked, then hit a textbook high crotch to a double. 5-3. He was able to get it. Good job on him. And then he hit a gut on PJ. 5-5. So Alexander is in the lead on criteria. This is the only time PJ got turned in the entire tournament. The only time. So they reset. After some great hand fighting, PJ chased the corner, got a single leg, and finished towards the edge. 7-5 PJ. And there was just some more hand fighting for the rest of the period. And then boom, PJ Duke, the U20 70 kilogram World Champion. August 17th, 2025.